This episode of Techno Buffalo is brought to you by Audible. Welcome back to another episode of Ask the Buffaloes, the show where you can ask me, John Rettinger, any question you've got from the wide world of technology. If you want to get one of your questions featured on an upcoming episode of Ask the Buffalo, every Tuesday on technobuffalo.com, we'll put up an article asking you for your questions. You can just leave them down below in the comments. Otherwise, you can send them to us at Twitter, either me at John4Lakers or at TechnoBuffalo, and use hashtag AskTheBee so we know what you are trying to ask and we know what show to get it into. So up this week, we got a ton of tech awesomeness. We're going to discuss the HTC One versus the upcoming Galaxy S4, what generation iPhones are the best to buy, where our cars come from Techno Buffalo's Driven, and what the next Nexus is going to have. Try saying that 3 times fast. This is Ask the Buffalo. Let's go ahead and get started. Ronaldo R. Diaz asks, hello, John. That was very formal. Hello, Ronaldo. Do you think the HTC One will be able to take on the Galaxy S4? So a few caveats. First, we're not entirely sure what the Galaxy S4 is going to have. By the time you watch this video, it will be just a few short days away, or perhaps we already know what the Galaxy S4 will have. But as of this filming, it is not yet available. I will say, though, it looks like the HTC One is going to stack up really nicely against the rumored specs of the Galaxy S4. I've actually been using it as my daily driver for a while. This guy, the Droid DNA, and I'm really happy that I gave HTC Sense another shot. I'm really enjoying it. Their email client's pretty solid. The skin seems to be a lot lighter than it used to be, and I'm really enjoying Sense overall. So for me, I'm looking forward a little more to the HTC One versus the Galaxy S4, but that could change totally once we know the specs of the Galaxy S4 and if Samsung puts a ton of awesomeness in it. But only time will tell. So hopefully that helped answer your question. User at Rafumzi asks, hey John, where do you get your cards for Techno Buffalo's Driven? We actually get them the same way we get the phones and tablets. I'll reach out to the PR firms and we'll say, hey, I've got a car show. Do you maybe want to provide a car? It's pretty easy to do. You can go ahead and just find any press contact in a press release. Usually they list people down below. I just started reaching out to them, and as the show started to grow, people started to reach out to us, which was even better. So the same way I originally started getting phones when I started doing my tech review, it's the same way I started getting cars when I branched out to that. So hopefully that helped answer your question. User at Ricardo on Deck asks, at John4Lakers, do you advise buying the iPhone S versions over the others for someone who's planning to buy an iPhone every 2 years? Usually I advise people to get the non-S version if they're getting phones every 2 years. The S versions generally bring a little bit of improved specs and maybe 1 or 2 new features, but the previous versions, the non-S, usually bring with them a brand new design and a slew of new features anyway. So if you're getting a new phone every 2 years, certainly would prefer having the new design when it first comes out, as opposed to a design that's already a year old by the time the S comes out. Because the S traditionally hasn't changed much in a design standpoint. That's a personal preference. I like to have something that looks new and that hasn't been out for that long. So I always advise getting the first generation product and then wait a year, or 2 years rather, before you get the next generation. So hopefully that helped answer your question. User at Star Trent asks, at John4Lakers, what do you think the next Nexus phone will be like? I think it'll be pretty awesome. I think it's going to be rocking the next version of Android, Key Lime Pie. We're hearing rumors it's going to be made finally by Motorola. Google bought Motorola Mobility a few years ago. They bought them mostly for their patent library. We haven't seen much from the hardware side come out of that partnership, at least unique things come out of that partnership. We're hearing that it's called the X Phone internally, and specs have been all over the place. Rumors from a 5-inch 1080p screen to a 5.3-inch 1080 screen to a 5.5-inch 1080p screen. But I think the big deal is going to be the software. I think Google's done a tremendous job of adding new features in each iteration of Android. And this is going to be a big change from 4 to 5, not a 4.1 to 4.2 kind of thing. I think we're going to see a ton of new features to Android. I'm not entirely sure what those are going to be yet. I think Android is pretty solid as is, but Google's already got sort of new things up their sleeves. It might be just fine tuning of what we already have, which is great. Sort of take out some of the bloat and make a faster operating system. I think the big story is going to be all about Key Lime Pie. So what do you guys think? You excited about the next Nexuses? I want to hear your thoughts. Leave them in the comments down below. So we step aside from the questions for a minute to thank our friends and sponsors at Audible.com, who coincidentally have a brand new iPad app to get all your downloadable audiobooks going. They're the leading provider of downloadable digital audiobooks and spoken word entertainment. Audible has over 10,000 titles to choose from to be downloaded to your iPod, MP3 player, and played back anywhere, anytime. time. Choose from books in every genre: science fiction, thrillers, romance, history, and more. Go to audible.com/techno to get your free audiobook download of your choice and a 30-day free trial when you sign up today. Again, audible.com/techno for your free audiobook. And also, don't forget, download that new iPad app. So thank you guys for watching another episode of Ask the Buffalo. We are back every single Monday with a new episode, so be sure to check us out and go to technobuffalo.com for the latest and greatest tech news. I'm your host, John Rettinger. I'll see you in the next video.